That idea of, I like to actually separate identity from personhood. To me, identity is one of the things that was used to oppress. Because if we can identify something, we can put it in a category. So blackness becomes a category of identity.
The more I don't know him or her, the more I am fearful of him or her. And the more I'm fearful of him or her, the more I am not having the intention of knowing him or her. I'm not looking at object. I'm looking at a human being that I've made experience. The color of this object does not, the way we use color for this object should not be the same way we use color for a human being, because a human being is something completely different. Please help me with that.
Yes. And I think you're very right. This idea of using the color on the outside to explain that interiority and everything on the inside, that's the basis of race thinking, right? Raciology, as they call it, or race logic. That idea that I can know something just based on the skin color. You see, the idea of race just doesn't talk about the color on the skin outside. It suggests that that color of the skin can tell you something about who that person is on the inside. Therefore, their morality, their character, their intelligence, all of those things, how they love, how they laugh, how they hate, how they fight, all of those things are packaged into one word, black. You see, it oversimplifies what a person is to the convenience of people who want to make use of that black body however they want to. Because we know very well, even during the slave trade, all over the world, people from different parts of Africa were taken, right? And they knew those people had different cultures. In some cases, they worked hard to make sure that people from the same culture wouldn't be too many in the same place. So they mix up those groups because they don't want you overthinking things in your language, right? So they knew that even in Africa, we are different. We're not one unanimous thing. We all are individual. So the big lie that continued to happen is to produce blackness as though it was one thing that they actually understood from the outside, right? And any idea that contradicted that had to be put down immediately. Any idea that made sure that a black person was understood as a human person with a spirit, a soul, and a unique culture from within Africa, which has many cultures. Anything that did that was a problem because it made, blackness closer to being human. And it's hard for somebody to oppress something that they see as human, especially if they are using the Bible to do it. So these things become very problematic. That idea of, I like to actually separate identity from personhood, because to me, identity is one of the things that was used to oppress. Because if we could identify something, we can put it in a category. So blackness becomes a category of identity. What are you? You are male and you are black, you are XYZ. All of these categories can conveniently then be used to deny you your personhood. And then you can be dealt with not as a person, but as black. And those are two very different worlds, And I think it continues to today, that idea of denying that reality, that you cannot use the word black for people who come from 54 countries or so now in Africa, with even more cultures and even more languages, each one with its own Genesis story or creation story, its own religion, its own dances, its own music. That's a challenge. But it began with those things. And also, it's important to know that Europeans were doing this before they came to Africa, defining the Scottish as a race, the Welsh as a race, the Irish as a race, and using all of this to define their moral characters. And when it became convenient, that same model was then spread to the rest of the world, which is much easier, if you're a minority somewhere, to call everything else one thing rather than try to understand the vastness of it. Imagine there's 3 of you white people in Africa, everyone else is black. Would you like to understand blackness if you're fearful? No, you might just call them black to make it easy to understand them and to do what you want to do than to relate to them as such, But the world does that today continually in many different ways, even using nation state to identify people, right? These people are Americans. Those are Italians. Those are Nigerians. We love to simplify as humans. Anything that gives us an excuse not to understand what a person is, I think historically we've started to be conditioned more and more towards that. I don't know. What do you think?
But are we really, of course, when we do that, when we do the oversimplification, we deny ourselves the opportunity to know the other person. Because in me now, I don't know. And the more I don't know him or her, the more I am fearful of him or her. And the more I'm fearful of him or her, the more I am not having the intention of knowing him or her, because now I am identifying. Because when I don't know you, I'm not prompted with the curiosity to come and find out, because I live in the pretense that I already know, but I don't know. And the more I reinforce this idea that, okay, I don't have to interact because I know what is the content of this bus, but I don't know because I don't want to find out. The more I don't want to find out, the more I don't know. And the more I don't know, the more I don't want to find out. Does it have a way of affecting the way we rapport as human beings? In the sense that those who have studied this dangerous philosophy, this idea, because they are not real in nature, they are not real thing in nature. Because like you were saying, before the Europeans started to interact with the African people, okay, let's look at the first European that started to interact with the African. I don't really know if we can actually say the first, because Africa is a land that extends to Europe. It's only separated by the Mediterranean Sea. But it's not the whole of it, because if you go to the land in Egypt, you pass to the Arabic land, which is the Middle East, which is actually an extension of Africa. You can basically walk into Europe. I don't know for how long the Strait of Gibraltar was actually a street. I don't know if you could pass it at one time. But in any case, what I'm trying to say is that when we look at even speaking culturally, what the Europeans want to claim as their own is not even their own. For example, the Mediterranean. Mediterranean is not a European culture. Mediterranean is a Mediterranean culture. Mediterranean, what is it by...